So let me get this straight. So we got birthright citizenship on the craps table. We got due process on the craps table while you are deporting people to countries that they have never been to, which would then open up a deportation of somebody who never left. Do I have that right? This really should have been a troubled waters. Yeah. Nah, racist of the week. Shout out to all of the subscribers and members here on the channel. Don't forget to like the video. I am Reese Waters, and this is Races of the Week, where we explore the stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union. And also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And of course, if you have any nominees, you can drop them in the comments. You can email me at admin@reesewaters.com.
Dozens of federal agents from different agencies raided an apartment building in the city's South Shore neighborhood early this morning. Neighbors there report multiple arrests in this latest immigration enforcement action. People who live there are telling our Sabrina Franza that American citizens were briefly detained. She is live for us on that scene right now. Sabrina?
Marie, inside this building behind me, many of the doors are boarded up after they were broken down during that early morning raid. Now, law enforcement sources tell us that taking American citizens briefly into custody just for their safety is standard protocol, which is what we're hearing happened this morning. Neighbors, though, who were in the middle of all of this say they are shocked to have been treated this way.
They asked me, was I a U.S. citizen? I told them, yeah. I was born here. It was real tight, all right here. And every time I moved, it would hurt.
Patricia Fisher says she was detained by federal agents this morning, claims she was held for hours in a van with other neighbors at 7500 South Shore Drive, while agents confirmed her identity, citizenship, and confirmed she had no active warrants. She describes the scene as she says children were also let out of the building.
No shoes. The kids that had no shirts or no pants on, they just treated us like we were nothing.
He said he had warrants for 5 people. I said, so why are you detaining the whole building? He says for the safety of our people.
Ebony Watson watched and filmed what she saw.
And all you see is this whole block full of budget rental cars,
showing a massive show of force and rental trucks used in this mission alongside ICE, FBI, and other federal agencies. The FBI called it a, quote, targeted immigration enforcement operation. Are they at the property? Because we're here. We tried to find the property manager. No one would meet with us or give us any information about what happened.
It's crazy. It felt like we were under siege last night.
Meantime, this Chicago neighborhood is grappling for answers.
They brought a baby out completely naked and wouldn't allow the mother a chance to clothe her child. You know, it's distressing.
Dozens of ICE officers raided a whole apartment complex in Chicago and detained American citizens for their safety as ICE agents verified their citizenship and warrant status. They only had warrants for 5 people, but still detained the whole building, including children, and they were all put in U-Haul trucks. ICE trashed a South Shore Chicago apartment complex in a raid and dragged naked kids out of their homes away from their parents. Ebony Sweets Watson, who lives across the street, said it looked like hundreds of agents were outside her front door. Watson said she saw agents dragging residents, including kids, out of the building without any clothes on and into U-Haul vans. Kids were separated from their mothers, she said. It was heartbreaking to watch. Even if you're not a mother, seeing kids coming out buck naked and taken from their mothers, it was horrible. Jones and Johnson said they believed the landlord would kick out the remaining residents from the building, which public records show had previously received code violations. Or more to the point, for all y'all that were saying ICE was never gonna F with black folks and this was Mexican business, that apartment they hit up in Chicago was 95% black. ICE is detaining black citizens in Chicago. It was never about citizenship. And ICE abducting Black Americans in Chicago should be a bigger story. Now that is 1,000% true, as is the fact that they've been telegraphing this play for a long time.
Let's start at the very beginning.
Now, President Donald Trump's opinion of Africa, or just about anything that fails the brown paper bag test, is pretty well documented, isn't it? Trump, why allow immigrants from S-hole countries? President Trump questioned why the U.S. would accept more immigrants from Haiti and S-hole countries in Africa rather than places like Norway, as he rejected a bipartisan immigration deal, according to people briefed on the extraordinary Oval Office conversation. Trump's contemptuous description of an entire continent startled lawmakers in the meeting and immediately revived charges that the president is racist. The White House did not deny his remark, but issued a statement saying Trump supports immigration policies that welcome, quote, those who can contribute to our society. And if you only just wait, in a few short 7-year span since this happened in 2018, you'll be able to see just how racist he really is. Actually, I made up that last part, but we did now, didn't we? Because in fact, it wasn't just people from Africa, because we'll take white people from Africa now, won't we, Trump?
Welcome. Welcome to the United States of America.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It is such an honor for us to receive you here today.
But now all of a sudden, Donald Trump staying up nights sending hey big head texts to African presidents in English that he's surprised they can understand.
I want to thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you. It's such good English, such beautiful. Where did you learn to speak so beautifully? Where were you educated? Where?
Yes, sir.
In Liberia.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's very interesting. It's beautiful English.
Sure.
I have people at this table can't speak nearly as well.
It makes you wonder, what is this all about?
This is not a tale of friendship. It's a global resource war, and Africa is the battlefield. The story is simple. President Trump is refocusing U.S. strategy on Africa, not for aid, but for access to critical minerals. On July 9th, Trump hosted 5 West African leaders: Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania, and Senegal. These countries aren't giants, but they hold gold mines, quite literally. Think manganese, uranium, copper, cobalt, lithium, and oil. These raw materials power electric cars, smartphones, and military tech.
African leaders and their publics have learned not to expect a lot of focus from U.S. leaders, and Trump's America First approach to foreign policy has left many Africans with even lower expectations of what his approach towards the continent might look like. So far, a focus on securing U.S. access to critical minerals, countering terrorist threats, and challenging China's increasing economic hegemony have emerged as the 3 areas where the new administration has articulated an early sense of focus. The announced mini-summit that was held at the White House of 5 West African nations, Liberia, Mauritania, Senegal, Guinea, and Gabon, will hopefully shed new light on what the U.S. administration sees as Africa's potential and how it hopes to approach it. Now, Africa, a word of advice, because what I can see is the hope and optimism that comes from a great number of people on the precipice of going into business with Trump. Yeah, you see the marble foyer, and you see the arched doorways, and you see the high ceilings and the crown molding, and you wonder what could be possible for you, only to find out that those things were paid for by not compensating those who supplied them. Just, you know what I mean? Africa, the line to get paid by this man is a long one. And we do not have the complexion to help you out with that. Just an FYI. In fact, that's why the big boys didn't even show up. Trump wants to talk business with Africa in hopes of countering China, but a U.S. summit excluded Africa's big players. At the White House African Leaders Summit, only 5 countries from the continent of more than 50 were welcome to join. None of Africa's big players, such as its largest economies, South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, and Ethiopia, were asked to attend. These nations are allied to BRICS, a group of emerging economies founded by Brazil, India, and America's adversaries, Russia and China. BRICS members face the threat of being hit with new tariffs from Trump for supporting anti-American policies. Well, if anything is anti-American, I would think it would be bringing the South African president up there and showing him unverified TikToks. I would think that would probably be, that would probably be it. And boy, Trump, I bet you wish you would like to have that one back now, huh? Cause who said? Elon Musk said. Cause Elon Musk said. So it's gotta be true if Elon Musk said it, right, Trump? Yeah, I seen his timeline. Most of the regional powers in Africa are either in BRICS as key members or are aspiring to join as key partners. These 5 countries attending the summit did not fall into that category and as such are kind of low-hanging fruit. China is Africa's largest bilateral trading partner, while its ally Russia has expanded its footprint on the continent, emerging as a major supplier of military hardware. And by the way, this is apropos of nothing, but in talking about Africa's relationship to the East versus the West, I just happened on this on Instagram this week, which might inform the nature of those relationships and why there's a little side eye towards the White House. And by the way, don't think those cartoons weren't in heavy rotation throughout the 80s, because that's exactly what I saw. Huh? How old am I? There was some VHS tapes that my mother had that I saw. This is not the first time Trump has hosted a small group of African leaders in the U.S., deviating from the approach of Barack Obama and Joe Biden, who hosted fuller gatherings of African heads of government while in the White House. During his first term in office, viewed by some as dismissive towards Africa, Trump hosted a working lunch in 2017 with 9 African heads of state, whom he described as partners for promoting prosperity and peace on a range of economic, humanitarian, and security issues. Let's see, a wide range of economic, humanitarian, and security issues. I wonder what that could possibly be. Economic, humanitarian, and security issues. I got one. Trump administration has floated deporting third-party nationals to Africa. South Sudan has accepted 8 third-country deportees from the U.S., and Rwanda says it's in talks with the administration of President Trump on a similar deal, while Nigeria says it's rejecting pressure to do the same.
Reports say President Donald Trump has urged visiting African leaders to accept migrants deported from the U.S. The plan was presented to the presidents of Liberia, Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, Mauritania and Gabon during their visit to the White House on Wednesday. Reports say the meeting had been partly convened to discuss this deportation proposal. Under the plan, migrants won't be returned to their home countries, but to these African nations as third country destinations. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, the architect of Trump's immigration policies, was present at the meeting. Now, according to an internal State Department document seen by U.S. media, Washington has urged the 5 West African leaders to agree to the dignified, safe and timely transfer from the United States of third country nationals. Under the proposal, these migrants would not be sent to their country of origin or former habitual residence until a final decision is made.
Although few details are known, these initiatives in Africa mark an expansion in U.S. efforts to deport people to countries other than their own. The United States has sent hundreds of Venezuelans and others to Costa Rica, El Salvador, and Panama, but has yet to announce any major deals with governments in Africa, Asia, or Europe. While proponents see programs such as this as a way of deterring what they describe as unmanageable levels of migration, human rights advocates have raised concerns over sending migrants to countries where they have no ties or that they may have a history of human rights violations. Okay, so let me get this straight. Because you cannot come to an agreement with the home countries as far as giving you the benefit that you have even made attempts to contact home countries, which is, in past administrations, I would just give you that benefit. 50-50 at best. Okay, so as like my mom says that I call my aunt. I called, she didn't answer. That's as much, that's all the energy I'm sure went into that. So you are snatching people up off of the street. Just even citizens, which we have seen. We've seen minors being detained. We've seen military veterans being detained. You are snatching people off of the street and deporting them to countries they've never been before. And that apparently is something that we're okay with. I know that there will be a chunk of the MAGAs that are 1,000% okay with this, as long as the people are several shades away from them. But just understanding what we are empowering our government to do, to grab up people, dubious due process. Yes, I see you over there, Alligator Alcatraz, attorneys optional, grabbing people with due process on the craps table and sending them to countries where they have no connection, where they have never been. That's what it, and that's just the sender portion of it. The recipient portion of it is that you're sending them to a region of the world where you have a history of the utmost of disdain. At which point I have to holler at the heads of state of all of these places. You realize how he feels about you, right? I started there. This is about as sloppy as their handling of the Jeffrey files. It's that sloppy. Also Texas and Signalgate and Iran. Actually, this is par for the course. 2025. This has been as sloppy as 2025. A rain-covered 20. It's that sloppy. The government of the tiny landlocked African country of Eswatini has confirmed that it has received 5 individuals deported from the United States under President Donald Trump. In a statement Wednesday, a spokesman for the Eswatini government said the deportations were the result of months of robust, high-level engagements. The 5 prisoners are in the country and are housed in correctional facilities within isolated units. That's right. Yeah. I am sure that Trump has had months of high-level engagements with the government of Eswatini. I'm sure that's exactly how that went. Here we have a map of the third countries where the Trump administration has been deporting migrants. It says countries that may accept non-citizen deportations from the U.S. Here we have those that have agreed: Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Panama, and Kosovo outside of Africa, and South Sudan, Rwanda, and Eswatini inside of Africa. But as far as those that have been or may be approached, pretty much Africa. That's pretty much Africa. Now, it makes you wonder why Trump would choose so many African countries, a place that he called S-hole countries, to dump, which is what this third-party deportation is, those that he has called the worst of the worst. He has called these people now we know different. There are people there with no records whatsoever. We know different. But these are people that he has called the worst of the worst. And we know how he feels about Africa. And apparently that was okay. Well, how about this? Trump administration demands action from 36 countries to avoid travel ban. The Trump administration has given 36 countries, most of them in Africa, a deadline to commit to improving vetting of travelers or face a ban on their citizens visiting the United States. The diplomatic cable sent by the State Department instructs embassies and consulates in 36 countries to gauge their host country's willingness to improve their citizens' travel documentation and take steps to address the status of their nationals who are in the United States illegally. Of the 36 new countries targeted, 25 are in Africa. The list includes some countries that have been traditional U.S. partners, including Egypt and Djibouti, both of which have military relationships with the U.S., and others that have long been friendly with the U.S., including Liberia, Nigeria, and Ethiopia. Syria, which was left off the initial travel ban, as was Congo, are both on the new list. Liberia. You don't say. That man threatened a whole travel ban after expressing a complete lack of knowledge or basic understanding about the country at all. And also curious too, so you said of the 36 countries, 25 have been in Africa, because when we have talked about the deportation and the immigration issues we have in this country, it has primarily been from Latin America. It's primarily been from Mexico and Cuba and Dominican Republic and Venezuela, Colombia. Not a lot of Africans. Wasn't a lot of African. But yet, when it comes to the kinds of people that they are making sure have a harder time, if not are prevented from entering this country, it is in brown and white. It is basically in brown and white. So you, and this is also worth noting too, because we saw this in both Venezuela and in Haiti, right? So at the same time as you want to issue a travel ban due to some concern about situation on the ground, you want to deport people to live there. That is what you are doing simultaneously. Now, in the regular times, this kind of hypocrisy would have been untenable. But once you let the white South Africans in while doing the mass deportations, I guess what's another one, right? Now, there has been pushback. This would be most unfortunate if it comes to pass, because we're a region of opportunities ready to do deals, said Nigeria's Yusuf Tugar, who currently chairs regional bloc ECOWAS's Council of Foreign Ministers. We possess critical minerals and even rare earths, Tugar told West African government ministers, citing the example of samarium used for military-grade magnets and nuclear reactor control rods found in his home state in Nigeria. We would like to do deals with the U.S., but visa restrictions are non-tariff barriers to deals.
Chad's president instructed his government to stop issuing visas to U.S. citizens a day after the U.S. travel ban was announced. Many have welcomed Debi's response.
They took an action, we took an action too. If it's a decree to say that we are closing the door on the Americans, that's what reciprocity is. A decree from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and if it had gone through the U.S. Congress, it would have had to. But Trump's headlong decisions deserve the same response. We don't play with our pride. We are Chadians. We'll have things to reproach our rulers for. That's obvious. But on this particular point, I agree 120%.
So if we're scoring from home, a man who has expressed utter disregard and complete ignorance of Africa as a continent now all of a sudden wants to cozy up to Africa, to try and dilute the Chinese and Russian influence when they have not mocked and degraded their culture in ways in which you have, but also so that you can dump the worst of the worst from the United States onto their shores, because that's how you feel about them as well, which is why you would go ahead and enter a travel ban, because that's how you feel about them. That is the situation. And against the backdrop of that, we have him questioning birthright citizenship, and we have dubious due process. So my brain gets to working as a Black American, right? As everybody should, in connecting the dots over to themselves. If enough people did that, we wouldn't be here, but I talk about that all the time. Okay, so let me get this straight. So we got birthright citizenship on the craps table. We got due process on the craps table, while you are deporting people to countries that they have never been to, which would then open up a deportation of somebody who never left. Do I have that right? This really should have been a troubled waters. Yeah. Nah, racist of the week. Racist of the week. Yeah. Let me know your thoughts. Email me at admin@reesewaters.com, or you can just drop them in the comments. Because I see all of this.
I spoke to one woman who actually lives in this building, and she says she was detained by ICE agents overnight, and she says they took everyone and then asked questions later.
They just treated us like we were nothing.
Pratishu Fisher says she came out to the hallway of her apartment complex on the corner of 75th and South Shore Drive in her nightgown around 10 Monday night, only to find ICE agents yelling police.
It was scary because I've never had a gun put in my face. They asked my name and my date of birth and asked me did I have any warrants, and I told them no, I didn't.
She says she was then handcuffed and released around 3 a.m. Fisher says she was told if anyone had any kind of warrant out for them, even if it was unrelated to immigration, they would not be released. Citizen-At video shows the chaotic scene overnight. Neighbors tell us there were dozens of ICE agents. Neighbors like Ebony Watson says they ducked for cover as they heard several flashbangs go off.
They was terrified. The kids was crying. People was screaming. They looked very distraught. I was out there crying when I seen the little girl come around the corner. Because they was bringing the kids out too. Had them zip tied to each other. That's all I kept asking. Where's the morality? Where's the human? One of them literally laughed. He was standing right here. He said, them kids.
Watson says budget trucks and military-style vans were used to separate parents from their children. Other neighbors say they saw agents destroying property to get in the building.
And they had a big 15-inch chainsaw with a round blade on it, cutting this fence down. We're under siege. We're being invaded by our own military.
This from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. ICE is running around Chicago harassing people for not being white. Just a year ago, that was illegal in the United States, and now it's commonplace. That's not making America great again. And the response, F yeah, I voted for this, and it's better than I expected. And by the way, this is what they're talking about. Not a single person will be reimbursed for the damage done by ICE in Chicago. Not a single therapy offered to deal with the trauma of the raids. Not a single right will be restored. Not a single family will be unbroken. Not a single child left unscarred. This is America. And then there's this. The ICE raid in Chicago was meant to provoke an urban black backlash and subsequently mass mobilization of federal troops to kill black people in the streets en masse. And you also have to take into consideration the litany of ways in which he has antagonized and tried to bait Black America. We have seen it with the DEI purges. We have seen it with he just dropped the MLK files. We have seen it with some of these militia groups and where they decide to go and where they don't decide to go. Yes, I see you over there, Lincoln Heights. We have seen them trying to bait us. Oh, Derek Chauvin. Yeah, that dog wouldn't hunt, but they threw out Derek Chauvin. We have seen the litany of ways in which they have tried to bait us. Specifically, while all of this is going on the backdrop, third country deportations to people that have never been there, and they're Africa. Y'all are, whatever a slick is, you are the opposite of that. The antonym to slick. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. You know what? September was a month to remember. The highest views we've seen all year. I know. September. Do you remember when it first started? September. Huh? Do I know the lyrics? I don't even think they know the lyrics. Wrong. And they told me September was a low month for YouTube. You know, kids are going back to school, parents are getting back into the swing of work. Not on my channel. It's for that reason I'm always going to remember September. Huh. My anniversary was in September. It was, wasn't it? I'm gonna have to get rid of this section. As I was saying, September, what a beautiful time for love. It's also a beautiful time for merch, for that special someone in your life. I have seen your questions about the merch link, and it is up at reesewaters.com. However, we are undergoing some changes as we're in the process of getting it linked directly to the YouTube. So pretty soon you'll be able to see the merch right there on my page. So be on the lookout for that. And while we're talking merch, I want to send a shout out to Tracy, who sent us this dope photo and her discouraged, depleted, but never defeated t-shirt. And I also want to give a quick shout out and a happy birthday to Melva and to her daughter, as well as my man Dwight and Daryl over at the barbershop. And yeah, you can tell I just came from the barbershop because I'm shooting during the daytime. Yeah. I want you to see that, just all the crisp I want you to see, because when I get fuzzy, I start shooting at night. And then once I pass 2 weeks, I just become a faceless channel.